Okay, let's see if we can play What's in the Short Box. I guess it's a tag going around. I saw a 64-page special do this. And I pulled out this short box this evening because it was, well, I don't have the lid on it, but it was labeled Kirby Bronze and Silver Age. But when I opened it up, there was maybe one or two Kirbys inside of it, and the rest was just other random stuff that I must have quickly put in the box. I can't remember what happened to the box that really has all the Kirby stuff and what I was doing with what the idea behind this box was. I must have been quickly throwing stuff in a box. So let's see all the stuff I did throw in here. Here we've got Man-Thing #4. I think this is still in the Steve Gerber days. How am I going to do this? I guess I will actually unload the box as I go. We've got the New Mutants #1. I think I saved this from when I originally bought it. I must have thought it was going to become valuable. Got Captain America and the Falcon #151, which is from the era that I originally read and loved Captain America and the Falcon when they were being drawn by Sal Buscema, written by various people, but most notably Steve Englehart. Wood God, great cover from Jack Kirby. It's not Jack Kirby on the inside. I think this is the only issue Wood God ever appeared in, but maybe appeared somewhere else. I don't recall it anywhere else. Marvel Team Up Spider-Man and Professor X. I feel like I've never read this one. The cover looks, I don't know who that is. Who did that cover? The Thing and the Scarecrow. This reminds me of my friend, once good friend, I'm the one who's at fault that we've lost touch, Scott Edelman, who is the creator of the Scarecrow. But I checked and he has not written this issue. X-Men from the early 80s, #170. That would be probably a Paul Smith cover. My arm is getting sore doing this already. I'm gonna have to switch hands. It's gonna be a wobbly video, so you can complain about it in the comments. X-Men 171, that's a fun cover. That looks like Walt Simonson to me. I wonder. Adventure into Fear. I don't know whether I had this particular Morbius issue or some other Morbius issue when I was a kid. As a kid, I found Morbius pretty fascinating. But I think, as I've said before, I sold or given away most of my comic collection over the years. So I'm pretty sure that's not the original copy. Now, I do have a lot of my original Frank Miller Daredevils. I thought they were going to be the most valuable thing in the world because I thought this is the comic that changed superhero comics before the Alan Moore stuff, before the later Frank Miller stuff. It's the Frank Miller, not this particular comic, but this run is what, in my mind, moved comics really beyond the Bronze Age, even though it took quite a number of years later before people stopped calling it the Bronze Age. But this, to me, is the beginning of, well, what they call the Dark Age, I suppose. Probably not a very good name. I have some other Daredevils in here, I'm pretty sure. I wrapped my Daredevils up in a bunch of plastic bags, and 4 or 5 years ago, dug them up and found the bags were all yicky and sticky, and I took them out and wanted to air out the Daredevils, and then some of them I haven't yet ever put back in bags. Here's a Thor from, I don't know, this must be the mid-70s. I always liked this cover. It's kind of chaotic looking. I assume this is not my original copy, but I think I had a subscription to Thor at the time this came out. Another of the Frank Miller Daredevils, a classic cover. A Frank Miller Daredevil before he started writing Frank Miller, I believe, 167. I think this is where I picked up on Daredevil when I was 18, I think, in college, and somehow stumbled across this, and it's what started me reading comics again. And then here's, I think, his first issue that he wrote, classic introduction of Elektra. Just a brilliant issue. And later on, I think this is one of the few issues where he inked himself. That cover is definitely inked by himself, and you can see as he's developing the style that he would bring to Ronin. Double-sized issue. It was near the end of his run. I think maybe that one he inked himself was the end of his run. So he did what, about, I don't know, 22 issues that in my mind changed the industry. Here's an issue where the very popular team of Iron Fist and Power Man were brought in to help with the ratings. Swamp Thing from the Alan Moore run. He had quite a long run too. That's number 51. Phantom Zone 4 of 4. I think I have the other issues somewhere. I may have bought that multiple times. Here's a modern comic from my recent binging on comics from Hawkeye, one of the better Marvel comics since I started trying to read Marvel again. Master of Kung Fu from the Mike Zeck era, I would assume. And another Master of Kung Fu, also looks like Mike Zeck. Is there a signature on here? I don't know. Interesting cover. Oh, here's one of the few Kirby comics in here. A New Gods that someone wrote $1 or $1.40 on it. What a way to sell comics. Right on the cover with a big pen. This is the last issue of New Gods that Kirby, or no, the second to last issue. I think issue 11 is the last issue that Kirby did. Superman introducing Superwoman. Not the Superwoman we know right now. I'm trying to remember which one this is. She seems to have red hair. Is that Lana Lang? First issue of Conan I ever bought. And it's the first issue that John Buscema drew. This, I think, is maybe my original copy. Kong, the Untamed. I think I went to mycomicshop.com to get Kong after seeing a video in which, pardon me if I'm wrong, but I think it was Solid ST Bend who did a video where he showed the run of Kong, and then I ran out and got it. Or maybe it was Hippies Collectibles or someone, I can't remember who for sure. I'm pretty sure Solid forced to get Bend. Alfredo Alcala covers, or at least on some of these. I think he's the one who did the interior art. I love the, it even looks like the lettering, the logo was inked by Alfredo Alcala. That looks like his style. I'm not sure, I don't think this cover is done by him though. I can't tell who the cover's by, and it's not signed. These covers are by and are not signed. I think that first issue was by him, and maybe that, no, that's someone else. It's telling me I have low power mode. Okay, I'm still filming that. Superboy, Kurt Schaffenberger, I'm guessing. Night Force. I've got a lot of Night Force. I think I've been re-buying it over and over again by accident. Night Force. I don't know. I particularly like it. It's probably a less popular work of Marv Wolfman and Gene Colan. Certainly not up to their Dracula thing, but I don't know. There's a lot of cool stuff in here. I like the character of Baron Winters, and I love these covers are definitely excellent Colan covers. Yeah, I've got multiple copies. This could take a long time. I don't know if my battery will hold out. Well, you'll get as long as my battery holds out. More Night Force duplicates, more Swamp Thing, the bleeding American flag there. I can't really remember what this issue is about. It's certainly a classic cover. Arkham Asylum. Is this period where Swamp Thing kind of took over Gotham? That was really cool. Saga of the Swamp Thing. This began the run that eventually became Alan Moore's run, but this is not Alan Moore writing it at this point. And then number 1. All-Star Squadron #2, great Joe Kubert cover. Swamp Thing near the end, I think, of the original run after Wrightston left. Still, that's a really good cover. Is that Nestor Redondo, I would assume. There's a, that may be Nestor Redondo's signature. I wonder if Nestor Redondo was one of the Filipino artists that so blew me away during the 70s. I think he probably was. And then back to the that Morvich and Alcala Swamp Thing. That's a cool cover. Okay, Tarzan as He Was Meant to Be. This might have been this TV show version might have been my first Tarzan, I'm not sure. Later I read all the novels and stuff, but I seem to remember my dad always wanted to watch Wild Wild West, and we kids always wanted to watch Tarzan Adventures, or whatever it was called. Conan Classic. Oh boy, these are really beat up. Cover falling right off. Conan. This is an awesome cover though, from Barry Windsor Smith. I think these covers must have been recolored and perhaps cropped differently for these Conan Classics. I love Barry Windsor Smith's style at this point as it was evolving into what it would eventually become. Oh, there's a cover without a comic. Another great cover. Oh, and another great cover. These definitely look cropped or somehow changed in some way from the originals. Devil Wings over Shadizar. I never knew how to pronounce that. City of Thieves. The Return of Tarzan, Joe Kubert cover. Tarzan was at so many different publishers, from Gold Key to Marvel to DC. I think it switched back and forth between DC and Marvel, and most recently we've seen Tarzan, did I say Conan? Tarzan at Dark Horse. Of course, we've seen Conan at Dark Horse too. A Tarzan Lord of the Jungle, 100 pages for only 60 cents. Looks like we got Detective Chimp there too. I don't know if he actually has anything to do with Tarzan. Tarzan Family featuring Korak. Cool Kubert cover yet again. Kubert, I don't know. This looks like Neil Adams on a Superboy cover. Shades of Man-Bat. It's Superbat. More adolescent anxiety. Instead of pimples, he becomes a bat. And early Batman and Robin becoming gothic. I love this cover, actually. Is that Neil Adams? I don't even know if that's Neil Adams or someone else. Phantom Stranger, Spectre of the Stalking Swamp. Looks like Swamp Thing to me. Was this before the Swamp Thing? Here we got some classic Avengers. It almost looks like a Gene Colan cover. Oops. There we have John Buscema. Love the John Buscema era Avengers. These 15 centers, particularly. It seems like Buscema was hitting a real peak at this period. I love Archon. I wonder if they've brought him back anytime recently. Oh, I think they did in one of the Secret Wars. Avengers, again, that looks like Buscema. The first comic I ever read, not the original copy, but Avengers 93. Awesome Neil Adams art. Captain America and the Falcon, again from that classic Sal Buscema, classic to me anyway, Sal Buscema's era. Also, that's the following issue where they fight Venom, who is an advertising executive. Thor, from a very good John Buscema period. Framed cover, very nice. The Beast. Pretty sure this is not my original, but this is one of the earlier comics I bought. I remember it distinctly. Remember puzzling over it. Who is the Beast? Who is the Juggernaut? And it takes place at the Halloween in Rutland. So interesting issue. Amazing Adventures, starring Inhumans and Black Widow. I love now collecting these double comics, these Marvel comics that would have 2 stories in each. Thongor, Imitator of Conan, Warrior of Lost Lemuria. Doctor Strange, this looks like a very beat up copy, but it's Frank Brenner cover, probably Frank Brenner interiors. Gotta have that. Oh, this is one of my all-time favorite Superman covers. I think it's, I'm so sleepy now, it's late at night. And his name is slipping my mind. Anyway, very cool cover. There's a Neil Adams cover of Superman. I don't think I've read this one. That's a crazy cover. I'm sure the inside is nothing like it. Superman versus Superman, the duel that destroyed the Earth. Oh, another all-time favorite cover. You've seen the poster on my wall. Cap Goes Wild. I don't know. To me, this is just everything a comic book cover should be. The Eternals. A fascinating but frustrating series by Jack Kirby. This was the issue where they fight the robot Hulk because he was told he had to connect it to the Marvel Universe. Forever People, and they meet Frankenstein. Cool cover. Excellent Thor, Galactus versus the Living Planet. Shall a God Prevail? Nice cover. Stalker. This is this Ditko with Wally Wood? I'm trying to remember now. I believe I have all 4 issues. I think it was only 4 issues. All-Star Squadron, classic first issue cover. Love it. By the recently deceased Rich Buckler. One of my many all-time favorite George Perez covers. The Corpse of Robot Man. Dr. Light. I think this might be the first issue I bought of the New Teen Titans. No, I read there was the supplement that was inside an issue of something else, and then I read this issue 3, and then I think I backfilled. But I don't know if these are my original copies. Probably. I think I saved X-Men, I saved Teen Titans, and I saved Daredevil, thinking those were going to be the super valuable ones in my collection at the time in the 80s when I took a hiatus from collecting comics. Oh, this is like a really nice cover of Hercules, really nice copy of Hercules Unbound, even though it has not been kept in a bag and board. More Teen Titans. Yeah, this is in the mid-1980s when I knew I wasn't going to be collecting comics, and I left a bunch at my parents' house. They were in these bags that now feel kind of gamey, and there was 2 issues per bag of all the comics I decided to save at the time. That's a cool cover. I'm less a fan of that cover. Ground Zero. Ooh. I always liked this cover. I always liked the god Apollo. Kind of sad he's a bad guy. Oh, and this is really a classic Perez cover in my mind. Of course, it kind of draws upon some classic Avengers covers. Maybe by Buscema. Oh, more Daredevil. Bullseye. What a character. When Frank Miller got hold of him, he knew what to do with a psychopath like that. Howard the Duck. My attempts at rereading Howard the Duck, the 70s Howard the Duck, have not been have been a bit underwhelming. Maybe because of the wordiness. A reprint of a classic EC comic. One of the many Seaboard Atlas comics I've collected. I think I have like 80% of them now. There was only one issue of this one, this Hands of the Dragon. I don't remember who did this cover. think this is post-Miller. Was Miller still writing? I think not. I think that Denny O'Neil was writing at this point. Another Denny O'Neil period Daredevil. It really went downhill a bit, especially once Jansen left. Captain America from, I think, the Mike Zeck era of Captain America. Nova from the original run, created by Marv Wolfman. Oh, I've never heard of this guy here, Valdor. It's not focusing well. Valdor and Sinnott. X Factor #1. Does anyone care about this? Is this wildly valuable since I saved it? No, it's not. A no doubt reprint issue of Sergeant Fury. Still a very cool cover, it looks like, by John Severin, or at least inked by him. Kirby returning to Thor just to do the covers. But that's a really, oops, I tried to tap the comic to make it focus. That's a really nice cover. Even though the editorial people at Marvel, when Kirby came back, were not too thrilled by him, they still used a lot of covers by him because I think they still sold well. That's a nice cover too. John Buscema, I assume. And this, I would assume, is Thor during the Keith Pollard era. If I had to guess, I would think it was Keith Pollard inked by Pablo Marcos, but I'm not really sure. Conan #26, the second half of the story of that first Conan I ever bought. It was probably 15 or 20 years till I read the second half. A Thor cover, kind of for Gil Kane, just a so-so cover, but still, it's Gil Kane. Oh. And I now realize, going through this box, that I have double dipped on this issue because I have at least one other copy that I bought recently. Fantastic Four, unbagged, from the period where Bill Sienkiewicz briefly was the artist, with a variety of inkers. Here the inker is Pablo Marcos. I think Bill Sienkiewicz on Fantastic Four was not the greatest mix. Plus, it was the early Bill Sienkiewicz that was a good Neil Adams imitator, but not much more. That's also from the Sienkiewicz run, I believe. Captain America and the Falcon from the good old days of Captain America. Somewhere around this time, he probably became nomad because he didn't feel he could represent, that he didn't have faith in the country anymore. Oh, classic. I think Stan Lee might have still been writing Spider-Man at this point, or maybe it was Jerry Conway. Defenders, I love this cover. This is one of my favorite Bronze Age covers. Nebulon. I wonder if they ever brought Nebulon back. I assume somebody must have. So this is two Rich Buckler characters fighting each other. Deathlock versus the Devil Slayer. It was originally a Atlas comic, Atlas Seaboard character named Demon Slayer, and then he redid, after Atlas Seaboard fell through, he redid it at Marvel, which was probably a bad idea because now Marvel owns his Devil Slayer, Demon Slayer idea. Not that anyone's used it in a long time. One of my all-time favorite Steranko covers. This one pained me a lot as a kid because the inside art is not by Steranko and it's by someone who was very uninspiring to me at the time. I think maybe Frank Springer. Probably someone who I should have appreciated more but did not. Some Herb Trimp Hulk. Looks like he's fighting Egghead, but his name is Aquan, the murderous man-fish. And there's a king-size Hulk that I think is actually some reprints of some. It's got a great Herb Trimp cover, but I think inside is reprints of Mary Severin Hulk for the most part. Another super classic cover from Frank Miller. I mean, you can't really beat that, can you? And another one. Oh, here's a very nice X-Men cover. Is that Paul Smith again? Or was his name Paul Smith? Or was it something else? I forget. Ooh, Ego Prime versus the Earth. I seem to remember this when Ego gets a body and walks around on Earth and fights Thor and his fellow Asgardians. I forget what the point of it was. I mean, why Ego was doing that. Early Defenders, again, nice. Probably Steve Gerber was writing it by this point. The Titan Strikes Again, because this guy Xenu, the Titan, I think was the bad guy in the very first story about the Defenders, if I remember correctly. For some reason, this particular issue of the Bill Sienkiewicz Fantastic Four run, I put in Mylar. Don't know what I was thinking. Oh, I must have several copies of this. I think I don't own the original that I bought. This is a reprint of some classic Fantastic Four by Kirby and Sinnott, and probably my first taste of the Silver Age. And so whenever I see this issue, the covers by, was a new drawing at the time in the Bronze Age by Gil Kane. But inside is the classic first meetup with the Inhumans and the first visit to the Hidden Land. And it blew my mind as a kid. Thunder Agents. I have lots of different reprints of the Thunder Agents, and they all have a slightly different set of contents. I'm not sure if I've read all the early Thunder Agents or not because of that. I've never owned Thunder Agents in the originals. There's so many reprints. What the hey? A random issue of Nexus, GodCon. I think it was a 2-issue miniseries. And finally, last but not at all least, Mr. A #1. This was sent to me by the most wonderful Gore Vidal. So awesome to have a good relationship with such a famous author. Or, in this case, comic book fan who uses the name Gore Vidal and lives in Texas and has wonderfully interesting tastes in comics and books and other things. So that's the whole box. So you get a taste of comics from my life, the randomness of this particular box, and the video that I half shot today, I guess I will finish tomorrow and upload that as tomorrow's video. And this is the Monday video. It's probably not Monday anymore for most people. It's 10 p.m. Portland, Oregon time, but good enough for me. So have a good night.